Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name is Caleb Deloach, and we have a lot of playoff football to talk about. A few more other, big exciting moments that have happened here recently of teams making the Final Four. We got some more state finals things going on. Some people won state championships already over in cross country. So quite a bit to talk about. We are deep in the playoffs. A lot of sports have already closed out their seasons by now. Like I said, we still maybe have a little bit more football left, but we are, once again, I keep saying it week after week, we're nearing the end of fall, getting close to basketball season. I keep interviewing some basketball coaches, so be on the lookout for that over the next couple of weeks. But outside of that, I'm going to jump right in. No need to waste too much more time. I will start the game I covered on the radio. If you want to watch more of me, I do, or listen to more of me, I do play-by-play for Jackson football games on 104.7 The Bridge. So I was at the Jackson versus Oakville game. Jackson won 49-7. I mean, it was kind of what I expected. I don't remember exactly what I said. I said, this Oakville team does some things well, but I think Jackson's going to blow them out. And that's pretty much what happened. It was only a 7-0 game after one quarter. Then Jackson proceeded to score 35 points in the second quarter. And that's all she wrote. And Indians dominated. Oakville scored with, I think, a minute left in the ball game. Really, really nice game. Look at some of the numbers. Individually, Jalen Hampton had 174 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, one that was 63-yarder. Drew Parsons, pretty limited game passing the ball, but 8 for 12, 86 yards. 2 touchdowns through the air. He had another touchdown rushing, about 15-yard run. He just beat everybody out to the corner of the end zone. He had 6 carries in total for 43 yards. Evan Turley had 48 yards receiving. He had 2 touchdowns. He also just flattened an Oakville defender at the goal line. Blaine Reagan had an interception. There was also Jackson, had a little fun out there. Had a double pass. Parsons threw it to Grant Brown. Grant Brown threw a touchdown to Camden Brockmeyer. Memphis Maddox, to start the third quarter, had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, it's just a lot of Jackson just dominating. They held Oakville to 65 yards on 29 plays in the first half. Jackson averaged over 10 yards a play in the first half. It felt, I assumed it was going to be a Jackson, dominant performance. It felt like that way from the get-go. They didn't... Oakville had the ball first. They couldn't really move it too well. Jackson did a great job stopping the run. The big X factor in the ball game. Oakville, pretty good. They're a balanced team for sure. Their quarterback had, like 1,100 yards or so coming into the game. They're pretty balanced, but they have a pretty good running attack. A lot of different guys get in there. Bigger kid, Anderson, Jacob Baines, all these different guys get carries. And so, that was going to be a big part of their offense, trying to establish the run, as it is, in all football. You want to be ahead of the chains. You don't want to be stuck in 3rd and 8s, things like that. And that's where Jackson really kind of won this ball game. They made Oakville uncomfortable early downs. They got after the quarterback. I think the quarterback went like 9 of 23 total for the game, and a lot of those, I believe, came in the second half against second, third units. And yeah, it's just a dominant performance start to finish. The Indians did it a lot on the ground. I was pretty impressed and maybe a little surprised that they really just kind of rode Jalen Hampton a lot early on. Even still, 174 yards is unbelievable. But with how many, it felt like the touches and things like that he had, you might even expect a bigger number. But Jackson, as it has all season long, the numbers, Drew Parsons finished with 86 yards passing, things like that. The numbers individually don't look amazing. A, because kids only play for a half. 2, if you made me say a number, I think on average, Jackson's starting field position this season is probably the 50, maybe their own 45-yard line. Jackson starts every drive with great field position. I say on the radio all the time, I feel like I'm repeating it almost every defensive possession Jackson has, where it's they've got Oakville backed up here deep in their own territory. with a chance to get them off the field here on third down and get good field position for the offense. That's usually what happens. Jackson pins people back deep. They stop the run, force you into uncomfortable passing downs, 3rd and 8, whatever it might be, 3rd and 7. And then, when you're a team that doesn't want to throw it 25, 30 times in a game, you might not be used to being put in those situations and then get an incompletion. Jackson does a great job when they get into those obvious passing downs, sending pressure from different spots. Guys come off the edge, up the middle there. They send blitzers from every direction. They do a great job getting to the quarterback. The front three do really, really well for a 3-down line set. Cameron Caldwell, Zayden Johnson, Cameron Brugman all did a great job getting to the quarterback. Aiden Jones, I believe. They all do a really good job putting pressure on the quarterback, making their lives uncomfortable, and then those linebackers get home as well. Joe Amore, once again, had a really big game. He was all over the field. He made tackles sideline to sideline, but he also got in the backfield and had, I believe, 2 sacks. Don't quote me on that. He did great. I said Johnson. I think he had a couple. Brugman was in there on some sacks. It was pretty just another dominant performance. There's not a lot to really get deeply into. They rode Jalen Hampton quite a bit, like I said. I was impressed by him. It felt like he just ran for 8 yards every time he touched a football. Oakville did get after Parsons a little bit more than I would have expected. I mean, they only give up 10 points a game coming into the game. And so, I knew they had a good defensive unit. They put up a ton of stats. They're very opportunistic. They had a lot of, sacks and tackles for a loss, interceptions, fumble recoveries, things like that. So I knew they had talent and they played really well on that side of the ball. But they got after Drew a little bit. And I think, once again, this is speculation. I watched the entire game, but I'm not down there. I don't know exactly what's going on. He was flushed on, I think, his very first pass attempt, and he took off, ran, didn't slide. He got hit helmet to kneecap, it looked like. So that was a little bit concerning. He was kind of shaking it off for a little while, but he underthrew some people. I think that kind of affected him. I think he's all right, though. He looked fine later on after probably about the first quarter. It seemed like the feeling kind of got back there. He shook it off a little bit. It looked like he underthrew some guys, and I think it was because he got hit in the right knee, which is his plant foot. And so I think a couple of those throws were a little short due to that, but it looked like he got out of there healthy. Everybody else seemed like they got out of there healthy, which is all you can ask for this time of year. Jackson then advances to the district championship game. They'll be taking on Northwest, not who you maybe expected to be there. So that'll be interesting. New opponent. It'll be at home. So cool opportunity for Jackson to host a district championship game, something they haven't done in a few years. So yeah, it's exciting. A nice win, nice well-rounded win. Like I said, I can sit here and just keep repeating myself. Blaine Reagan, I said he got an interception. Very cool. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He went up over a receiver that's probably even shorter than him. He's got a great vertical. He doesn't get a lot of interceptions, I feel like, because people don't throw it his way a lot. And he did good. Went up, got that one pick. Oakville had a little bit of success. They had one wide receiver that's probably 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". Max, I think his name's Simakaitis. I remember him. Jackson played him in basketball. He's a pretty good sized kid, a wing on the basketball team up there at Oakville. And he had some success just kind of catching jump balls, playing rebounder, playing power forward basically out there, getting his body between smaller defenders. But outside of that, Jackson did a great job. They shut down the run. They got to the quarterback. Not a lot to complain about. They covered kicks. They had one blown assignment, maybe a little bit there. Nobody. They got back there. I could tell that there was probably a conversation, Coach Nesbitt. They got back there. They shut down kids returning kicks. I mean, they probably made 4 or 5 tackles inside of the 20, inside the 15, maybe even. So that unit looked really, really good. So kudos to them. It had 49-7. The second half, it was 42-0 at halftime. Then Memphis Maddox, like I said, returned the opening kickoff of the third quarter. So no starting offense, defense out there in the second half. I had speculated that they might get out there for one series, but then Memphis Maddox did it himself. So that's a super explosive weapon, having Memphis Maddox. That's his, I believe, third kickoff return for a touchdown this season. He had a 99-yarder against Farmington, and then he returned kind of the punt, whatever, off the safety against Miller Career Academy. So he's been a weapon back there in kick return as well. The one funny quirk about the game was after he had that return, Jackson kicked it off to Oakville. Oakville had the ball for the next 11 minutes and 48 seconds of the third quarter. Into the fourth quarter, it was fourth down. I think they turned it over on downs on the first play of the fourth quarter. A lot of those guys, different faces, different names in there. Max DeBow and Gage Parker. Gage Parker just got the ball time after time after time. Oakville had their starting defense in there, so they kind of figured it out. They put like 8 or 9 guys on the box and shut down the drive after Jackson drove into the red zone, I believe, and forced a turnover on downs there. Oakville got it back and then had it all the way until the final minute. They scored a touchdown with a minute left in the game. And then Max needed out for Jackson. So shout out to those guys, as always, coming in late in ball games. They do well. The defense looked really, really well, even in the second half there. And it's another dominant performance, and I'm not going to really predict anything different to happen next week either. So we'll get there when we get there. Cape Central played Webster Groves in semifinals there, Class 5 District 1. Won that ball game big, 50-14. However, if you weren't there, if you weren't paying attention, that game was 16-8 at halftime. And technically, Webster Groves was in the red zone late in the half trying to tie the ball game. But Cape made a defensive stand, and then in the second half, it was just all Central. They just blew out the Statesmen from Webster Groves. Webster Groves is one of those teams that I feel like should be better than they are at football. They obviously have an amazing basketball program, tons of state titles there, and great players coming through. And in the past, they've been really, really good in football. It feels like they kind of fallen on hard times. I don't know what the cause of that could be necessarily, but that's a team that I feel like should be in a better spot than they are, but that's just my unnecessary thoughts here. The big numbers: Keyshawn Boyd, 22 carries, 120 yards, 4 touchdowns. Torrance Murray had 14 carries for 78 yards. And then once again, they gave up 14. The defense was absolutely phenomenal. Very opportunistic, forced, a ton of turnovers, and they were just incredible. The numbers that they had on their website, Cape Central has their own website to post all the stats. They had 2 defensive touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 8 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and a blocked punt. So, just a wild, wild game. They stopped the run really, really well. That was a big part of it. Webster Groves, they like to put it in the air. That was something I talked about last week. It's going to be one of the more pass attempts that they might see over at Cape Central this year, but the Cape Central secondary is really good. I've talked about that a lot this year too. That's a group that I really, really like is their secondary. I mentioned they had 4 interceptions today. Martavian Robinson, Malachi Johnson, D. Williams, Brayon Clemens, all these guys do a great job in the second and third level of defense. Make life really difficult for quarterbacks. They make life really difficult for receivers. They do a great job covering people, and they did so once again here in this one. Starting out the ball game, Cape got it, and they gave it to Keyshawn Boyd. Keyshawn Boyd over and over and over again, and they scored first possession of the ball game. Like I mentioned, D. Williams, he got a pick. Cape methodically drive down the field. They do get stopped. They kick a field goal. Joey Charleston, really good weapon kicking. He had a 41-yarder that he nailed to put him up 10-0. Then, once again, Cape blocked a punt, got really good field position, and Boyd scored. Punched in short touchdown after a 20-yard pass to Jathan Spain. Once again, Spain, I think, had all 3 receptions in the ball game. Not a lot through the air once again. And I know that's by design. You have 2 good running backs now in Murray and Boyd, but you're not going to be able to just run over everybody. But for the time being, it's working. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, I guess. And then that was when Webster Groves finally got on the board, hit a long pass, 70-plus yards, and they cut it to a 16-8 ball game. And then kind of went, a little wonky at the end of the half. But it was a really slow game up to that point. 16-8 at halftime. There wasn't a lot of issues by Cape especially, but both teams really were taking a lot of time off the clock. Like time of possession was just drawn out every possession. So after the long touchdown, Cape fumbled, but then the defense stood up, forced a punt deep in their own territory. Cape couldn't really get anything going. They punted themselves, and then Webster Groves, like I mentioned, had a drive down the field late, and with 15 seconds, they threw a ball into the end zone. Malachi Johnson got the interception. So the defense really just kind of standing on its head once again, balling out. Those guys in the secondary played really, really well, and the guys up front stopped the run to put Webster Groves in tough positions to throw it downfield, and that's when those defensive backs were able to make plays. Starting the second half, Webster Groves had another really long drive that ended with a touchdown, cut it to 16-14. And then I thought there might be a little issues here going on. I was like, Cape, I think, is a lot better. They should be playing better than this. They should be winning by more than this, because then they fumbled the ensuing kickoff. Webster Groves got it at the 47-yard line. However, once again, D. Williams steps up, gets an interception, and returns it all the way down to the Webster Groves 3-yard line, where Keyshawn Boyd then punches it in. They go up by 2 scores, and then it is just a snowball turning into an avalanche after that. You've got Webster Groves punts. It gets returned for a touchdown by Breon Clemens. That's his 3rd consecutive non-offensive touchdown, or 3 weeks in a row non-offensive touchdown. 2 pick sixes, and now a punt return. Then Cape gets a goal line stand, which is really cool. Webster Groves had a long drive down inside the 10-yard line and got stood up there. And then Cape drove 95 yards, give or take. Keyshawn Boyd punches in another score. That's his 4th of the ball game. They go up 37-14. They force a fumble. Joseph Hamlin recovers it, takes it in for a touchdown. Like 2 minutes left. Webster Groves trying to drive again. Pick 6. Martavian Robinson put the seal on this one. Just another dominant showing. Defensively, they've been so good. They have been playing really well all season long, with the exception of, really just the Cape game. Farmington, I think they gave up 35. I'm looking at it right now, but the last 4 games they've played in, mind you, the competition level not always great, but it started with that Lift for Life game. Lift for Life, very, very, very explosive, good offense. Held them to 16 points. Went to Kennett, gave up 8 against Melville a week ago. They gave up 0, and then against Webster Groves, gave up 14. So that's what they're going to have to lean on. They now have a date in the district championship game with Farmington. That'll be at Farmington this Friday. It's going to be tough. A rematch. A game you lost, a game you could have played a lot better in. You really gave Farmington a lot of points for free. So no Keyshawn Boyd in that game. Some more injuries have healed in that time period as well. We'll figure out what the prediction is when we get there. And then finally, the one loss here in the area, Saxony's district run comes to an end in the semifinals. They lose to Hayti 50-21. Unfortunate, but they do end their first varsity season at 4-5. I was kind of go down the game breakdown here, which was Saxony got it first. They turned it over on downs. Hayti immediately hit a passing touchdown. This one got away early, and just Saxony gave them too much, and Hayti just built up a nice lead, and were able to just kind of go back and forth after getting a big lead. I said Hayti gets a touchdown. Kai McDowell fumbles, I believe, at his own 2-yard line. Hayti punches it in to go up 14-0. Saxony, you have a moment there. You think some positivity coming your way. They hit a 74-yard bomb to Tucker Teague, but it gets called back on a penalty. After the punt, Hayti goes and scores 22-0. Saxony gets stopped. Hayti, 55-yard touchdown pass, 30-0. Kind of all she wrote. Saxony did not give up. As I mentioned, they scored 21, but early in the second quarter, it's already 30-0. You just simply don't have enough runway to come back from that. And like I said, they did fight. They did hit a big pass to Tucker Teague later on, 66 yards for their first score. But then once again, they give up another touchdown at the end of the half. Hayti goes up 38-7 into halftime. And then once again, like I said, just too big of a mountain to climb. But you do commend the team. They didn't lay down. They have a lot of young guys that have stuff to play for. They had a lot of seniors that are going to be finishing their first football season on the varsity, heading out as well. So they did not lay down by any means. So you got to give them props there because they did give up another touchdown, 44-7. But then Kai McDowell had a 21-yard touchdown run, made it 44-14. They had a bad snap, Saxony that is, on a punt. Hayti recovered it for a fumble, made it 50-14, and then a 24-yard touchdown pass to Ozzie Turner from McDowell, made it 50-21. I believe they had an interception to end the game. But, yeah, good year. I mean, good first year for Saxony. There's obvious things you got to work on, but this is a really good year for a first-year varsity program. Really impressed. Coaching staff feel like they did a good job. Kind of played to their team strengths. I'll quickly mention, all the guys going out the door here. I'm looking at the Misha website, so if it's wrong, blame Misha. Baylor Wilson, Christopher Steffens, Alex Rhodes, Leighton Ponder, Jack Ozark, Matthew McKee, Corby Ingert, Nashawn Davis, Alex Burek, Jaron Anderson. So some players that are, definitely big factors there offensively along the line of scrimmage there. Burek was awesome at running back all season long. Anderson also played a really big part there as well. Good skill position players. So some guys going out the door, but you also got to salute these guys. Let's say Saxony does start winning a lot of games in a couple years. These are the guys who built this program, the ones last year and the ones this year. Those are the guys that got in there and set the example as the older guys and made their mark. These are guys, a lot of them that have been Saxony kids for a long time or St. Paul kids, wherever it might be, Emmanuel Lutheran kids. And, they never really envisioned a world where they'd be playing football, but then it kind of falls in their lap, and they made the best of the opportunity that they had. So I was really impressed. Year one, overall thoughts in this game in particular, it's kind of a common theme. Teams that are maybe more athletic than Saxony give them a lot of issues. You look at the schedule, and a lot of these guys in these losses, they have kids that are simply run faster 40 times in Saxony, and Saxony couldn't slow them down. They couldn't maybe move the ball as effectively as they would want to. Sparta/Steelville had some kids that were really nice athletes. Marquette, Charleston was just more athletic. Perryville, kind of just bigger all-around type situation. Hayti, the Payne kid, J.C. Ford, the Love kid at running back. Those kids are big-time athletes, especially here in Southeast Missouri. They are big-time, next-level type kids, and unfortunately just too much for Saxony to kind of overcome. And, that might change next year, right? They're going to have another year to get bigger, stronger, faster, get in the weight room. A lot of these kids are freshmen, sophomores. A lot of them haven't played a lot of football either, especially at this level. They've only played 1 year now. So, you're getting used to it, trying to catch up to the speed and the size. But they did a good job taking care of business where they needed to. I felt like throughout the year, they beat the teams they should beat in most games, in my opinion. But yeah, the next step is just kind of beating those teams that are on your level, or maybe they have a certain advantage over you, whether it be speed or maybe it's size. You got to try to find those advantages of your own, take it to exploit. And so, but yeah, not a lot of complaints. They scored a lot of points. They gave up a lot of points. They averaged over 35 points a game, but they gave up 33 points a game. That's where kind of the development's going to have to happen, is finding guys to play on the other side of the ball. Offensively, there's not a lot of issues. McDowell is only a sophomore, going to be a junior next year. They bring back a lot of skill guys around him. Ozzie Turner, I mentioned, a touchdown. Tucker Teague. These are underclassmen. They're going to keep getting better, keep getting stronger, faster, things like that. But you got to find guys, and, they're a Class 1 school. There's going to be, obviously, not the depth that you have at a Cape or a Jackson. I understand that. But you got to find guys that really take pride in that defensive side of the ball and, just keep developing, keep getting better, keep getting stronger. I've had a lot of fun watching the Saxony team this year. I have some little family connection there as well, so it's been really neat keeping up and talking a lot about Saxony, not just here on the show, but around town. So I'm impressed with the results, and, I think the trajectory is going the right way. I think they're only going to keep getting better, and it was really, really good first year for Saxony. Now, talking about Saxony, one of the more notable things that occurred over this past week was the Saxony Volleyball team made their first ever Final Four. Unfortunately, it did not end maybe the way you would want to, but they do make the run up there. They drop the semifinal to Mount Vernon and in the third place game to Oak Grove. I commend them. Oak Grove is really good. Oak Grove, in my opinion, the state title game was that matchup, at least going into it. I thought the state title game kind of de facto was that matchup between Oak Grove and Helias. Both those teams came in. I think Helias had no or one losses. Oak Grove had no losses, something like that. And so Oak Grove is an awesome team. And Saxony got blown out in the first set, right? 25-8. But they didn't lay down. They kept competing. It was unfortunate. They just could not get over the hump. They lost the next two sets, both 25-22, to finish out their year. Really good year for those girls. A lot of youth there as well. They made big strides over the year. I know they had injuries also early in the season, so they had a nice combination of youth and experience. And unfortunately, there's going to be a few girls. I remember mentioning their senior night a few weeks ago, but girls that really, really contributed, and some more senior leaders: Lauren Burke, Evie Ford, Riley Manch, Callie Renshaw, Lindsay Terrell going all out the door. But they bring back a lot of talent, small junior class, really big junior or sophomore and freshman classes that'll be back next year. And that's similar to the football team. I think the trajectory is going the right way. Now, high school sports have weird, unpredictable issues or injuries, things like that. But I was impressed with what I saw. Some really, really good freshmen. And so I'm really excited about the future there. I think they can make some noise in Southeast Missouri and the SEMO Conference potentially next year. So congrats to Saxony. Big accomplishment going to the Final Four. Very cool to see for them. Next sport I'll talk about is boys soccer. So we got a lot to cover from this past week. Month back, we're going to go in the time machine. We're going to talk about it chronologically regardless of how things ended up going. Monday, November 3rd, Jackson knocked off Seckman 3-0. Team you see a lot. Luke Simmons had 2 goals. Dylan Stroessman had 1. And then Notre Dame played Saxony in the Class 3 District 1 tournament. Notre Dame won big 6-0 over Saxony. Good year by Saxony overall. I know they had the combined co-op there with St. Vincent, so I don't know if that's going to be a thing that carries over in the future or what. So we'll see how that goes in the future, kind of to keep up with what they do. But, Baylor Wilson, Jonathan Palmer, Maxim Mayhew, Weston Jeter, all important pieces, really good athletes heading out the door for Saxony. Once again, a really nice year for them. They competed well here in the area, as it is a tough area in boys soccer. Notre Dame, Jackson, very, very big-time schools here. But a good season by Saxony comes to a close there in the first round of districts. And then Cape, who was hosting their game as well, they beat Sykeston. Tough ball game, 2-1. That was a one-score game also when they played in the regular season. So that was a very tough 2-7 matchup. I was, surprised maybe Sykeston was that low. / I knew it would be an issue for Cape, even at home, things like that. Then Thursday, we do bid farewell to a couple of teams. One of them being Jackson. They took on Vianney up in St. Louis. Lost that one 1-0. It's a good soccer match. Tough break there for the Indians, losing by a score. And a good year for Jackson once again. It's kind of what you've come to expect, 15-6. This is a program that's not too far removed from winning a state title in 2020, going back and losing in the championship in 2021. After a down year in 22, they've won 17, 13, and 15 games. So a good group of kids. Once again, I keep saying it about all these teams, but they have a lot of productivity heading out the door. Caden Garrett, Preston Hinkabine, Mason Jackson, really, really good. Luke Simmons, Ian Squires, Dylan Schrothman, a lot of kids who played a lot of minutes for this team. Going to be moving on, but I expect them to kind of reload once again this year. It's kind of what they've done over the years. So they do close out their season 15-6, but I think they're going to be capable of replacing these kids heading into next year. Cape Central, similar fate. They lose to Poplar Bluff. This one a little bit more of a surprise. They had beaten Bluff maybe like a week or two before this. So I thought this was a game that Cape Central could win and maybe should win. Let me see here. They beat Poplar Bluff 3-1 at Bluff earlier in the year. But Bluff got them. They got on them early and often. 4-0 was the final there. Good year by Cape. 10 wins. Nice season overall. And, they pushed some teams around here. They made things difficult, but they graduate 1 million kids here. If you look at the Misha website, this is bad radio, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 kids listed on the roster as seniors. For those unaware, there's only 11 people on a field at a time, so they lose a lot. I'll run through the names: Caleb Williams, David Torres, Keaton Thompson, Josiah Seaball, William Miller, Bruce Miller, Landon Kaler, Abdul Cargbo, Ruben Kamal, Aiden Jennings, Aiden Galloway, Wilmer Castor Velasquez, Joseph Cow, and Joseph Allgood. So they lose a lot. Joe Cow, really good player. I know Josiah Seaball. They lose a lot. I'm interested to see how they kind of recover from the people that they do lose. I know they have a really good program over there. A lot of kids that are super talented year in and year out at Cape Central, but big group heading out the door for them. But the one winner we did have in Class 3 District 1, Notre Dame, knocked off West Plains. And then I can now tell you, I'm recording this after the game actually happened, Notre Dame took care of business, and they won the district title over Poplar Bluff 3-1. So another district title for Notre Dame. I think I saw that was 6 in 10 years for the Bulldogs. Clark Summers scored a couple of goals. Trenton Powell had the other. This was a 1-1 game late in the ball game. Summers had a goal to tie it up at 1 before halftime, and then it went 1-1 all the way into the 75th minute, in which time Summers scored with about 5 minutes left, and then a couple minutes later Powell followed with about 2.5 minutes left. So big time clutch performances by those guys, winning, taking care of business. It was here, the game was here in Cape Girardeau. It was at Cape Central. So Notre Dame was kind of de facto playing at home, and so they move on. They will be playing this next week. They'll be taking on Rockwood Summit. That game will be here at Notre Dame, so very cool opportunity. Summit's a good squad. The record's not great at 12-9, but this team beat Jackson. Jackson can't beat this team. Just monkey on the back situation like crazy. They play a really tough schedule. They play all the Metro Catholic teams, play all the tough squads around St. Louis. Like I said, the Viannis, the CBCs, the Chaminades, De Smet of the world, and they play a lot of good teams from around the state. They took on a really good Springfield Catholic team, dropped that one. So they're very battle-tested. It will be a tough game for Notre Dame for sure, but having it at home is an advantage, certainly. And that game will be Saturday, November 15th. So if you're in the area, want to go support some kids playing late into the season, there's your opportunity. Go do it. Go check them out. It'll be really, really cool. So best of luck to the Bulldogs there. We will jump back to the past, though, now. We're all but one team, or only one team remaining for boys soccer. So I keep saying we're approaching the end. We're getting there. A lot of boys swimming action in the SEMO Conference Championships. Notre Dame did win. They won pretty commandingly over Jackson, was second. Farmington, Cape, Poplar Bluff. Notre Dame had a lot of kids individually that placed really well. Caden Craycraft, Hudson Dennis were co-MVPs of the meet. Craycraft was first in the 200 IM and first in the 100 butterfly. Hudson Dennis, really good multi-sport athlete kid. Maybe one of those kids that are going to be on the Notre Dame football team in a couple years. I think about the dates. Dennis was first in the 100 freestyle, first in the 100 breaststroke. Another great year for Hudson Dennis. Parker Holshoff placed well, second in the 50 free, third in the 100 butterfly. Tristan Aguila finished third in the 100 free and fourth in the 200 free. And then Ben Purcell, second in the 200 free and third in the 500 free. That's too far to swim. And relays, they finished first in the 200 medley and 200 freestyle. So once again, a lot of wins and a lot of high medals for Notre Dame's. Over at Jackson, Jan Hanke had a couple of victories. He got first in the 100 backstroke, and he was a part of the 400 free team, along with Sam Herndon, Finley Johns, Kenyon Kelpie, that also got first for the Indians. And Cape Central, no first place finishes, but a couple of swimmers did place high. Will Lawrence, second in the 100 butterfly and second in the 100 back. Kent Sheridan, also a really good pole vaulter, third in the 50 free, third in the 100 back. Then we will jump to some more Notre Dame dominance, which is in the sport of cross country. Big time showing by Notre Dame, boys and girls, but the girls get the special shout out here. Congrats to Notre Dame girls, the Class 3 state champs. As a team, they finished first time in school history. It's a really, really cool accomplishment for those girls. They were led, as they have been the last 2 years, by the two best runners in Southeast Missouri and two of the very, very best in the entire state. Martina Ressel gets second place overall. Lily Coy comes in third overall, as they have been right by each other all year. I know Lily just won the SEMO conference meet a little while back. Martina's breaking school records. Awesome duo. This will be the end of cross country for Lily Coy. We'll see her in track and field later on in the spring. But she does wrap up her career with, I believe, 3 all-state finishes and then finishing third. Really, really cool. Martina, like I said, gets second. Not her best time ever, but she ran really, really well in a really big-time meet for a sophomore, coming in second place. Amelia Peters came in 41st for the Bulldogs. Victoria Vila Hinau came in 42nd. They both run 21 low, 2102, 2103, respectively. Kind of round out that high-scoring mark for the Bulldogs. Yeah, and they finished with a pretty good lead over the second-place team, so shout out to the Notre Dame girls. Moving on to their boys in Class 4, Aiden Morris, as he has been a stud all season long. The same class as Martina Ressel. Really, really cool to see them have 2 kids, freshmen, now sophomores, that are just dominant in cross country. Aiden Morris came in second in 15:31. Great race by Aiden. Unfortunately, he was just running behind an unbelievable lights out performance by Carson Drymeyer, a kid from Festus. Kid's a monster. I think he ran the fastest time ever in state. So great job by Aiden. He was joined by a few more teammates there. Jackson Jones ran 17:02. Brendan Dial 17:20. Blake DeBrock 17:32. So congrats to all those guys over at Notre Dame. Great showing this year. You know, they had the best boy and the best girl in the area. When we get to those SEMO Ball Awards, I expect those two will win cross-country runners of the year. Other teams on that day, at least, Friday, you had Class 5, which is Jackson. Jackson was there. They brought the boys team, and the boys team finished, I believe, 11th place overall. Pretty good showing by Jackson. You know, they were not expected to necessarily finish up there in the top 3 or anything. So a good showing by the Indians at the state meet. Individually for the boys, you had Aiden Nibalski, as he has all season long, really led them. 15:53 coming in 21st. Nate Meisner in 55th, ran 16:29. Chase Wendell, 16:41. Kenyon Kelpie, 16:52. So shout out to those guys. Running really hard. Aiden Nibalski, one of the best all season long. Been a lot of fun to keep up with his journey as well. And then over on the girls' side, there was, I believe, just one runner qualified for the Indians girls. A younger team for sure, a lot of their talent in the lower grades for the Indians, but they were led by Emma Nibalski, most all year. She does come in 39th individually in 1936. So shout out to her. Everybody else kind of closing out their seasons. Tower Ewan was there. Carter Reese, Nolan Kentner all came in there for the Indians as well. Shout out to the Indians. Then Saturday, Saxony competed. Boys, they just had one qualifier, was Nick Chambliss. He ran 18:26. And the girls, their team qualified as a whole, and they finished 11th as well as a team. They were led by Rayleigh Matthews in 21:55, really set the tone. Eva Williamson, 22:23. Briley Meyer, 22:31. Emma Bingston, 22:56. So shout out to all the runners, man. Their season is done. It was a big time year this year, in my opinion, over in cross country. A lot of really good showings here in the area. And then shout out to the kids at Notre Dame, man. They were dominant all year. They won a ton of races. Like I said, Lily and Martina, the girls were just lights out all season long. They were at the top of every podium they ran. So great years. Aiden Morris, same thing. He was at the top of pretty much every podium, every race he ran in. So really, really good years, and those years have now come to a close, but a lot of those guys and girls will be over in track. We'll see them in the spring. So that gets us to, this upcoming week here. This week that we're in currently, we've got 2 football games, 2 district finals. This is, this is where it's all about. One of them, so I'll start it like this. Jackson is taking on Northwest. Northwest, good team, dream season. I believe this is maybe their first ever district title game, something like that. This is the furthest they've ever been in playoffs. And they're 8-2. I mean, they score. They average 40 points a game. They only give up 18. They defeated Seckman to get here. Big surprise there. They lost to Seckman 49-14 early in the year. So I kind of assumed Seckman would kind of march through once again to the district championship game so Jackson could beat them at home. Didn't get that lucky. Northwest beat Seckman 14-7 in a knockdown, drag-out rock fight. And they advanced to a district title. So big accomplishment for them just getting to this point. Everything, if you want to know just a little bit about them, everything they do runs through the quarterback, Cohen Stark. Cohen Stark is 17 of 122 passing, 1,386 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He also has 1,300 more yards running the ball. He's the leading rusher, most carries, most yards by a mile. So it's going to be the Cohen Stark show. Unfortunately for him, there's a team of really, really talented kids on the other side of the ball, coaches that are able to exploit teams that are really one-dimensional, and I think Jackson is going to perform pretty darn well. Their leading receiver is a kid named Omarion Frazier, 36 catches, 778 yards, 6 scores. As you know, Jackson undefeated. They average over 52. They only give up 13.5 points a game. I mentioned earlier they blew out Oakville by 42. Can't overlook anybody. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a Jackson win. They're playing at home. And we will not look too far ahead, but we will finally get the matchup that we've been circling since the season started, which is potentially CBC in the quarterfinals, potentially at Jackson. So no disrespect to Northwest. Great year, all-time great year for them. 8 wins is huge. But I just don't see a world in which they can hang with Jackson. So Jackson just got to do what they have to do. Stay healthy, take care of the football. No dumb mistakes, penalties, things like that. They've done a really good job keeping the penalties under wraps the back half of the year. The first half of the year was disgusting, but they've done a lot better on that side. So the other big game, district title, Cape Central goes on the road to Farmington to take on the team that beat them earlier this year. It was 35-21 at Cape. I mean, by now you probably also know about Farmington. They're 8-2, and they average 43 points a game. They do go up 24. They are led by their quarterback, Tatum Tinsley. I guess they're led by somebody that you're probably very familiar with, which is the head coach, Brent Eckley, who won a state title at Jackson. But quarterback, guy who runs the show for them, Tatum Tinsley, really, really good athlete, big, strong kid, good passer, maybe a better runner. He does a lot with his legs. They have a lot of quarterback design runs. though he is a big part of the run game. Coy Fripp and his brother Isaac Fripp are probably the two best skill position players they have. Coy Fripp is a really good running back. Isaac is a really good receiver. A lot of the offense goes through those three guys, but they've got weapons everywhere. Tatum Tinsley spreads the ball around. I mean, it's going to be tough. I don't know. I don't know what to necessarily say. Cape, 8-3. They average 27. They give up 18. So it's conflicting styles. Cape is going to run the ball 40, 50 times in the game, and Farmington's going to maybe throw it 30 times in the game. So it's going to be interesting. Cape, the first time they played really poorly offensively. They turned it over, I think, 4 times. So, I mean, I think Cape led 14-0 at one point. And Farmington just stormed back, doing what they do. They took advantage of all those turnovers. Farmington also really had issues turning it over. Cape did not capitalize as much as Farmington did, and Farmington got the win. Caveat, Keyshawn Boyd did not play that game. Cape had a lot of injuries earlier in the year. Those kids are getting healthy. Like I said, headlined by Keyshawn Boyd, but they're really turning things up. The defense looks really good. I mean, Martavian Robinson, Brayon Clemens, I keep saying it, Williams, Johnson, Hamlin, all these guys on defense have been playing so well. I mean, the biggest question is, can Farmington slow down the run game and make Cape pass the ball? Aiden McGuire threw 5 passes in the game against Webster Groves. That's been about the average the last month of the season. So, man, making a pick here is so hard. Preseason, I said Farmington was going to be the second best team in the SEMO conference. Ahead of Cape, I was right. It did, like I said, there were some outside circumstances maybe that played into it. I mean, this is a good opportunity for Cape. It's going to be on the road, though, which is really tough. And this Farmington team is riding high. I'll just maybe, being a homer, I want to root for Cape here. I do have a lot of appreciation and respect for Coach Eckley and the things he did at Jackson and, my senior year, him showing up and turning us around, making us a really, really good football team. I have a lot of respect for him because of it, accomplishments in the past. I don't know. It's going to be a really close game. It's going to be a coin flip game. Cape can win if they can continue to move the ball and if they win the turnover battle. Win the turnover battle, win the line of scrimmage, Cape wins the ball game. If they turn it over 2, 3, 4 times, Farmington's going to win. Boys soccer, I already said, Notre Dame, Rockwood Summit, be there. It'll be at Notre Dame Saturday. Go check it out. And then the state championships in boys swimming are coming up the 13th through the 15th. Class 1 schools, you're on Thursday and Friday. Class 2, so Jackson, you're on Friday and Saturday. So those are the times to look for in swimming. Outside of that, though, we've got nothing. We are heading now. I mean, I know Cape and Jackson fans are like, we got big football games to worry about. But we are heading now headfirst into basketball season. I'm admittedly a basketball guy, so I'm excited about that. But there's some business to take care of. This Cape game is really interesting to me. It's hard to pick, like I said. I will ride with Cape just because I'm going to be pulling for them. But Farmington's going to be tough, man. It's going to be at their place. It's going to be hopping. I think the weather is going to be pretty nice. It's supposed to warm up as opposed to the front half this week where it's very cold. I think it's supposed to be like a high of 60s, 70s on Friday, Saturday, something like that, Thursday, Friday. And so it won't be freezing cold by any means or things like that. So I just hope everybody's healthy and ready to go in the game, and I hope we get an awesome game. I'll be watching it. I will be calling the Jackson game. I'll buy the Cape game on Misha TV if it's available, and I'll be streaming it as I call the Jackson game and updating people listening on the radio. So, I do want to take one quick look across the entire area when it comes to state in football. I mentioned Saxony lost, so Hayti advances. They're going to be playing Portageville in their district championship game. Be an interesting ball game. I think that Hayti team looks really good. They play the way they did against Saxony. I think they can win, and I think they can make a run to the Final Four potentially. It would not surprise me in the slightest, but I will admit that I don't know a lot around the state as far as Class 1 football goes. Class 2, you got Crothersville taking on St. Pius. Big-time game. Crothersville won that by a score earlier in the year, so that should be a tough one. It'll be at Crothersville. We'll be rooting for those Tigers as well. Be keeping up with that one. And Crothersville, similar situation. They can make things interesting in the quarterfinal. Down in Class 3, Dexter versus Potosi. Should be a tough matchup. It'll be at Dexter, though, obviously. So I'm going to give the Bearcats a little bit of an advantage. The other District 2, Valley versus Lift for Life is the game to watch that night, especially in Class 3. Super excited to see that. Those teams are like number 1 and 3 in Class 3, so that'll be a big time matchup there. Class 4 team Jackson fans are familiar with, Festus. They're playing in the district title against North County. They should roll. I would not be surprised to see Festus in the state semifinals again. They would meet Kearney there, and they're probably going to lose. But Festus is going to make a deep run. They're a really good team. I was impressed with them when Jackson played them. And I said, Cape Farmington, you got to get there first. You got to win the game. But what do you have to look forward to? The winner of Kirkwood and Eureka. That should be an interesting matchup. Kirkwood, definitely the superior team. They're going to be hosting that game. I think Kirkwood should get it done. Kirkwood's a really good team. I mean, they were just in the Class 6 state semifinals a year ago, and the enrollment dropped conveniently just below the line. And they're going to be really, really dangerous there in Class 5. I think they have a chance to make some noise. But, if Cape or Farmington, but hopefully Cape gets out of the district, I'll be pulling for them and watching that ball game. And then Jackson fans, you're getting closer and closer to what you've been talking about. Jackson has an opportunity. I think they will. They're going to beat Northwest, in my opinion. And then they will be in the state quarterfinals against CBC or Lafayette. Both teams are undefeated. Both teams would pose a huge test. CBC is one of the best teams in the entire Midwest of the United States of America. Their offense is out of this world. Lafayette, though, really, really good, well-rounded team. Defense plays so tough, and the offense is very efficient. I mean, they only give up 9 points a game. They're scoring 44. CBC averages 54 a game. They're giving up 18, and CBC has played a semi-national schedule. They play teams from Springfield, Illinois, Nashville, Georgia, so they're going to be the real deal if the Indians have to face them. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great time. Outside of that, there's not a lot else to talk about that's going on. Be on the lookout. I'm going to start releasing some coaches' interviews. Talk to a few coaches now. Hope to maybe get 1 or 2 more interviews in. I do have a life outside of this, unfortunately. My wife probably yelling at me right now. So bear with me, but I'm excited to, keep talking football. Hope some teams make a deep run, but otherwise I'm about to get out of here. And once again, if you're a Cape baseball fan, I don't remember if I talked about this previously, but Cape bringing in new football coach Steve Williams, really, really cool, and Tally Haynes assisting him. And also over at Notre Dame, there's going to be some turnover. We'll keep our eyes peeled on who fills the role over there. Coach Lawson is heading to Three Rivers, so a lot of change here in Cape County on the Diamond. Obviously, we're a little while out there, but as I said, Coach Williams back at Cape, along with former alum Tally Haynes taking the reins there. So that would be cool to watch. And then, like I said, keep your eyes peeled on who takes the Notre Dame job. I'll have that news as it comes out later on. But outside of that, I don't believe there's much else to talk about. This is a shorter episode, but we are in the shorter part of the year here. We're closing in on the very, very end of fall. Going to get into, the winter sports very, very soon. Basketball, boys and girls, I'm really excited about. There's some really good teams in the area. We'll have girls swimming. We'll have wrestling on the boys and the girls side. And so it's going to be neat. It's going to be fun. Stay with us. Stay tuned in to, hear from some of these coaches. Get ready for some previews, things like that. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, I do this not for my own glorification, but to get some more eyeballs, get some more coverage on these kids. Because I know if I was back when I was in high school playing, it'd be cool if somebody was doing this. So kind of the way my motivation behind it. So Thank you, as always. Thank y'all for listening to watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, go over to YouTube, subscribe, get those subscribers up so we might be able to do some live stream things here in the winter time. I'm going to get a little bit more time on my hands. Outside of that, thank you as always. Check out all of our social media. We're on pretty much every social media site. I just share and update everybody on scores and schedules, things like that. And so we are getting close to wrapping up one season and heading into the other. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.